Well, there were all those stories at the time. There's stories about almost everything.
Yeah, that's the thing.
About how you didn't get along, you had
No,
didn't like one another.
we didn't get along. We were four guys. We had rows. It never got in the way of the music, no matter how bad the row was.
The Beatles have shone brightly in music history and are known for their groundbreaking creativity and lasting impact. Yet, behind the scenes of their meteoric rise, whispers of discord and tension circulated among the band members. Finally, through the lens of Ringo Starr, their legendary drummer, the tales are laid bare and the truth surfaces. What caused the strife? How did they manage to maintain their musical cohesion amidst the strife? Join us as Ringo finally reveals how the Beatles didn't get along. Harmony amidst discord. In an interview, Ringo Starr addressed the persistent rumors during the Beatles' heyday that the band members didn't get along and even hated each other. He acknowledged that, while there were indeed stories about almost everything, including their supposed animosity, the truth was more nuanced. The four band members, like any group of close colleagues, had their disagreements and rows. However, Ringo emphasized that these conflicts never compromised their music. No matter how intense their arguments became, once they started playing, they always gave their best. He pointed out that such conflicts are a natural part of any close relationship, especially one as high pressure as theirs. Over time, as they grew older and their personal lives evolved, Ringo, for instance, had children. Their focus and the effort they initially poured into the band began to wane. Despite this, Paul McCartney's relentless work ethic played a crucial role in keeping them productive. Paul, whom Ringo described as the workaholic of the band, would frequently rally the others, ensuring they continued to make music even when John and Ringo preferred to relax. Ringo shared how he had been deeply immersed in the music industry since leaving the factory in 1960, consistently playing and producing records. He noted that many top-tier artists lose their sense of identity at the peak of their careers, but he believed that he and his bandmates managed to stay grounded. This was partly due to their shared background and the mutual support they provided each other. Whenever one of them started acting like a big shot, the others would step in to keep things in check. He recalled meeting Elvis Presley and feeling a sense of pity for him. Despite being surrounded by people, Elvis seemed isolated, whereas Ringo always had his three bandmates for support. This camaraderie among the Beatles helped them navigate the pressures of fame more effectively. Ringo admitted to hating practice and preferred learning by playing with other musicians, which he found more engaging. His early musical experiences in Liverpool, playing with neighbors and friends, laid the foundation for his career. Discussing the significant risk he took by leaving Rory Storm and the Hurricanes to join the Beatles, Ringo explained that, although the Hurricanes were more prominent at the time, he was drawn to John, Paul, and George's dynamic. They met in Germany and played at the same club, and their chemistry was evident. Despite others questioning his decision, Ringo had no hesitation in joining the Beatles. Ringo underscored that while the Beatles had their share of internal conflicts, these never detracted from their musical unity and collective success. The rumors of discord were part of their story, but they never overshadowed their shared commitment to the music. Despite the rumors of discord, Ringo's journey to the Beatles was shaped by his early musical influences and experiences. What pivotal moments transformed a young factory worker into a Beatle? Let us find out. From childhood struggles to Beatlemania beats. Sir Richard Starkey, MBE, known as Ringo Starr, was born on July 7, 1940. He was the only child of Richard Starkey and Elsie Gleave, who worked as confectioners. His mother, Elsie, loved singing and dancing, a passion she shared with her husband, who was a big fan of swing music. Before their son Richie was born, Richard Starkey and Elsie Gleave enjoyed spending their free time dancing at local ballrooms. However, their regular outings stopped soon after Richie's birth. Elsie became very protective of her son, almost to an extreme. Meanwhile, Starkey's father, known as Big Richie, began to lose interest in the family. He started spending long hours drinking and dancing in pubs, sometimes disappearing for several days in a row. To save money on housing, the family moved to Admiral Grove in the Dingle area in 1944. Shortly after, his parents separated and divorced within the year. Ringo later said he has no real memories of his father, who made little effort to stay in touch, visiting only about 3 times after the separation. Elsie struggled to live on the support payments of 30 shillings a week from her ex-husband, so she took several cleaning jobs before finding steady work as a barmaid, a job she kept for 12 years. When Starkey was 6, he got appendicitis. After a simple surgery to remove his appendix, he developed peritonitis and fell into a coma for several days. His recovery took a year, during which he stayed at Myrtle Street Children's Hospital in Liverpool, away from his family. When he was discharged in May 1948, his mother let him stay home, so he missed school. By the time he was 8, Starkey couldn't read or write and struggled with math. This made him feel out of place at school, leading him to frequently skip classes and hang out at Sefton Park instead. With help from his neighbour and surrogate sister, Marie Maguire Crawford, who tutored him twice a week, he almost caught up to his classmates. However, in 1953, he got tuberculosis and had to stay in a sanatorium for 2 years. While he was in the sanatorium, the medical staff tried to keep the patients active and entertained. They encouraged everyone to join the hospital band, which is where he first encountered a percussion instrument. He used a makeshift mallet made from a cotton bobbin to tap on the cabinets next to his bed. Soon after, his interest in drumming grew. He received the song "Bedtime for Drums" by Alan Ainsworth as a get-well gift from Crawford. Starkey said, "I was in the hospital band, and that's where I really started playing. From then on, I only wanted to play drums. My grandparents gave me a mandolin and a banjo, but I didn't want them. My grandfather gave me a harmonica, and we had a piano, but none of them interested me, only the drums." Starkey went to St. Silas, a Church of England primary school near his home, where his classmates called him Lazarus. He later attended Dingle Vale Secondary Modern School, where he excelled in art, drama, and practical subjects like mechanics. Due to his long hospital stays, he fell behind in school and couldn't take the 11+ exam needed to get into a grammar school. On April 17, 1954, Starkey's mother married Harry Graves at the Register Office on Mount Pleasant in Liverpool. Harry was originally from London and had moved to Liverpool after his first marriage ended. Graves loved big band music and singers like Dinah Shore, Sarah Vaughan, and Billy Daniels. He introduced Starkey to their recordings. Graves said that he and Ritchie never argued. Starkey said, "He was great. I learned kindness from Harry." After Starkey's long hospital stay because of tuberculosis, he didn't go back to school. Instead, he stayed home, listened to music, and played along by drumming on biscuit tins with sticks. When Starkey came back home from the sanatorium in late 1955, he tried to find a job, but he struggled to stay focused and disciplined. His first attempts at working didn't go well. To get some warm clothes, he took a job as a railway worker with British Rail. They gave him a suit, but no uniform, and because he couldn't pass the physical exam, he lost the job and had to rely on unemployment benefits. After that, he got a job as a waiter on a boat that went from Liverpool to North Wales, but he was scared of being forced into the military, so he quit. He didn't want the Royal Navy to think he was okay with working at sea. In mid-1956, Graves helped him get a job as an apprentice machinist at Henry Hunt and Son, a company in Liverpool that made school equipment. While working there, Starkey became friends with Roy Trafford. They both loved music, and that brought them closer. Trafford introduced Starkey to skiffle music, and he loved it right away. Skiffle beats to Beatle beginnings. Not long after Trafford got Starkey into skiffle, they started practicing songs together during their lunch breaks in the cellar of the manufacturing plant. Trafford played guitar, and Starkey improvised percussion. Trafford remembered, "I played guitar, and Ritchie just made a noise on a box. Sometimes he slapped a biscuit tin with keys or banged on the backs of chairs." Starkey and Trafford were joined by Eddie Miles, who was Starkey's neighbour and co-worker. Together, they formed a band called the Eddie Miles Band. Later, they changed the name to Eddie Clayton and the Clayton Squares, named after a place in Liverpool. The band played well-known skiffle songs like Rock Island Line and Walking Cane. Starkey played percussion by using a thimble on a washboard, making rhythmic sounds. Starkey liked dancing, just like his parents did when they were younger. He and Trafford tried dance lessons at 2 different schools for a little while. Even though they didn't continue for long, those lessons taught them enough to dance decently and have fun when they went out at night. On Christmas Day in 1957, Graves gave Starkey a used drum kit. It had a snare drum, a bass drum, and a cymbal made from a rubbish bin lid. Even though it was simple, this drum kit helped Starkey get better at playing music. It also made the Eddie Clayton Band more appealing to audiences. They started getting bigger gigs in their area, but by early 1958, the popularity of skiffle music started to fade as American rock and roll became more popular in the UK. In November 1959, Starkey became part of Al Caldwell's Texans. They started performing in local clubs as the Raging Texans, then changed their name to Jetstorm and the Raging Texans. Eventually, they settled on Rory Storm and the Hurricanes just before Starkey joined them. Around this time, Starkey started using the stage name Ringo Starr. He got the name from the rings he wore and also because it sounded like it had a country and western vibe. When he sang solos, they called it Star Time. By early 1960, the Hurricanes were one of the top bands in Liverpool. In May, they got an offer for a 3-month gig at a Butlins holiday camp in Wales. The Butlins gig opened doors for the band. They got other chances, like a tour of US Air Force bases in France. Starr didn't enjoy it much and said, "The French don't like the British. At least I didn't like them." The Hurricanes got so popular that they were offered a big opportunity to perform regularly in Hamburg. They started playing at Bruno Koschmider's Kaiserkeller on October 1st, 1960, where Starr met the Beatles for the first time. The Hurricanes were the main attraction, even more than the Beatles, although the Beatles didn't get paid as much. Starr played with the Beatles for some gigs in Hamburg. On October 15th, 1960, he drummed with John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison. They recorded for the first time together while backing up Lou Walters, the singer from the Hurricanes, on the song Summertime by George Gershwin and Dubose Hayward. While Starr was in Hamburg for the first time, he met Tony Sheridan. Sheridan was impressed by Starr's drumming skills and asked him to leave the Hurricanes and join his band. Beatle Breakthrough and Beyond Starr left Rory Storm and the Hurricanes in January 1962. He briefly played with Tony Sheridan in Hamburg before rejoining the Hurricanes for another season at Butlins. On August 14th, Lennon asked Starr to join the Beatles, and he accepted. 2 days later, Beatles manager Brian Epstein fired their drummer, Pete Best. Best was told that the band wanted Starr instead because George Martin, the Beatles' producer, wasn't happy with his drumming, and the band felt he didn't fit in. Starr's first time recording with the Beatles was on September 4th, 1962. He said that George Martin, their producer, thought he was crazy because he was trying to play both percussion and drums at the same time. During their second recording session on September 11th, 1962, Martin decided to use a session drummer named Andy White instead of Starr. They were recording the songs Love Me Do and P.S. I Love You, which would become their first single. Starr played tambourine on Love Me Do and maracas on P.S. I Love You. Worried about his role in the Beatles, he thought, "They're replacing me like they did with Pete Best." Martin explained later, "I didn't know Ringo's abilities and didn't want to take chances." By November 1962, Beatles fans had accepted Starr, and some were even asking him to sing. He started getting as much fan mail as the other members, which made him feel more secure in the band. Starr felt lucky to be on the same page as the other Beatles. He said, "I had to be, or I wouldn't have lasted. I had to connect with them as friends as well as a drummer." During this time, Starr got a small part of the profits from Lennon and McCartney's publishing company, Northern Songs. But most of his money came from owning a quarter of Beatles United. This company was funded by the band's concert earnings. Starr talked about his life after becoming successful with the Beatles. He said, "I spent 3 years living in nightclubs. It was like one big party that never stopped." Just like his dad, Starr was famous for dancing late into the night, and people admired his dancing skills. Beatles breakup to solo success. Just before McCartney left the Beatles in April 1970, he and Starr had an argument. McCartney wouldn't change the release date of his solo album, which meant Starr's debut album, Sentimental Journey, and the Beatles' Let It Be would clash. Starr's album, which had songs from before rock music, was arranged by Quincy Jones, Maurice Gibb, George Martin, and McCartney. It reached number 7 in the UK and number 22 in the US. After Sentimental Journey, Starr released Beaucoup of Blues, which had a country music vibe. It was recorded with the help of Scotty Moore and Pete Drake. Both well known in Nashville. Even though people liked the album, it didn't sell well. After that, Starr focused on both his music and acting in films. Starr joined Harrison for the concert for Bangladesh, where they performed together. They also co-wrote the hit song It Don't Come Easy, which was a big success, reaching number 4 in both the US and the UK. The next year, Starr had his biggest hit in the UK with Back Off Boogaloo. It was produced and co-written by Harrison. The song reached number 2 in the UK and number 9 in the US. Starr also became friends with the English singer Mark Bolan. He directed his first movie, a documentary about T-Rex called Born to Boogie, in 1972. In 1973 and 1974, Starr had 2 songs that reached number 1 in the US. Photograph, which he co-wrote with Harrison, and You're 16, written by the Sherman Brothers. You're 16 was his 3rd million-selling single in the US. It also did well in the UK, reaching number 4. The album Ringo was a big success, liked by both fans and critics. It had a song called Oh My My, which reached number 5 in the US. The album itself reached number 7 in the UK and number 2 in the US. Author Peter Doggett says Ringo set the pattern for Starr's solo career. Since Starr wasn't a big songwriter, he depended on his friends and his likable personality. When he had both, his music usually turned out great. In 1974, Starr released Goodnight Vienna, which was also a success. It reached number 8 in the US and number 30 in the UK. The album had songs from Lennon, Elton John, and Harry Nilsson. One of the songs was a cover of the Platters' hit, Only You and You Alone, suggested by Lennon. It reached number 6 in the US and number 28 in the UK. Another song, No No Song by Hoyt Axton, reached number 3 in the US, making it Starr's 7th top 10 hit in a row. However, Snookeroo, written by Elton John, didn't chart in the UK. In the middle of November 1974, they made a music video and commercial for the album. They filmed it on the rooftop of the Capitol Records building in Los Angeles, which was made to look like a stack of discs. Lennon did a voiceover while Starr's spaceship landed on the building and Starr got on it before flying over the city. In the video, Starr, Nilsson, and Keith Moon were there, along with a 40-foot robot named Gort placed on the building. During that time, Starr started dating Lindsay DePaul. He played tambourine on one of her songs called Don't You Remember When, which she wrote and produced for Vera Lynn. He also inspired another song by DePaul called If I Don't Get You, the Next One Will. She said it was about getting back at him because he missed a dinner date with her. He fell asleep in his office instead. In 1975, Starr started his own record label called Ringo Records. The label signed 11 artists and released 15 singles and 5 albums between 1975 and 1978. They released works by artists like David Henschel, Graham Bonnet, and Rab Noakes. During this time, Starr's own music career wasn't as successful, but he kept recording and stayed in the public eye. In 2001, he said that the decline in his career was because he didn't focus enough on music. He mentioned that he and his friends like Nilsson and Keith Moon were more into drugs and alcohol than music. They were part of a drinking club called the Hollywood Vampires. In November 1976, Starr was a guest at the band's farewell concert, which was featured in a documentary called The Last Waltz, directed by Martin Scorsese. Also, Starr released an album called Ringo's Rotogravure that same year. It was his first album under a new contract with Atlantic Records in North America and Polydor in other places. The album was produced by Arif Mardin and had songs written by Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison. Starr promoted the album a lot, but it didn't do well in the UK charts. In America, it had 2 small hits. A Dose of Rock and Roll reached number 26, and a cover of Hey Baby reached number 74. The album sold okay and reached number 28 on the charts. After this, Atlantic Records changed Starr's music style, making it a mix of disco and 1970s pop for his next album, Ringo IV, in 1977. But this album didn't do well either, not charting in the UK and only reaching number 162 in the US. In 1978, Starr released another album called Bad Boy, which reached number 129 in the US and didn't chart in the UK. In April 1979, Starr got very sick with intestinal problems because of his earlier illness with peritonitis. He had to go to the Princess Grace Hospital in Monte Carlo. He was really close to dying, and during a surgery on April 28, doctors had to remove several feet of his intestine. 3 weeks later, he played with McCartney and Harrison at Eric Clapton's wedding. Then, on November 28, there was a fire that burned down his home in Hollywood, and a lot of his Beatles stuff got destroyed. A star on-screen Ringo wasn't just a drummer, he could act. And critics and folks in the movie business have praised Starr's acting skills. Walter Shenson, a director and producer, even called him a superb actor, an absolute natural. By the mid-1960s, Starr had become a big fan of movies. Besides his roles in A Hard Day's Night, Help, Magical Mystery Tour, and Let It Be, he also acted in Candy, The Magic Christian, Blindman, Son of Dracula, and Caveman. In one, he played Larry the Dwarf in Frank Zappa's 200 Motels and appeared in Harry Nilsson's animated film The Point. Starr played a teddy boy in That'll Be the Day in 1973 and had a part in The Last Waltz, a Martin Scorsese documentary film about the band's farewell concert in 1976. Starr took on the role of the Pope in Ken Russell's Lisztomania in 1975 and played a version of himself in McCartney's Give My Regards to Broad Street in 1984. In Ringo in 1978, a TV comedy film inspired by The Prince and the Pauper, he appeared as both himself and a character named Ognir Ratz. Additionally, he had interview segments with fellow drummer Keith Moon in the 1973 documentary film about The Who, The Kids Are All Right. He wrote some books, such as Postcards from the Boys from 2004, Octopus's Garden from 2014, and Photograph from 2015. Love, Loss and Legacy. Starr met his first wife Maureen Cox in 1962, around the time he joined the Beatles. They got married in February 1965. Beatles manager Brian Epstein was the best man, and Starr's stepfather, Harry Graves, and fellow Beatle George Harrison were witnesses at the wedding. Their marriage even inspired a novelty song called Treat Him Tender Maureen by the Chiclets. The couple had 3 children, Zach, Jason, and Lee. In 1971, Starr bought Lennon's house, Tittenhurst Park, in Berkshire, and moved his family there. However, they got divorced in 1975 because Starr was unfaithful multiple times. Cox passed away from leukemia at the age of 48 in 1994. In 1985, Starr became the first of the Beatles to become a grandfather when Zach's daughter, Tatya Jane Starkey, was born. Zach, who is also a drummer, spent time with Keith Moon from The Who when his father was away. He has even performed with his father during some all-star band tours. Starr has 8 grandchildren, 2 from Zach, 3 from Jason, and 3 from Lee. Starr and Buck divide their time between houses in Cranley in Sussex, Los Angeles, and Monte Carlo. In the Sunday Times Rich List 2011, he was ranked at number 56 with an estimated personal wealth of £150 million. In December 2015, Starr and Buck sold some of their personal and music-related belongings through an auction in Los Angeles by Julian's Auctions. The items included Starr's very first Ludwig Black Oyster Pearl drum kit, instruments gifted to him by Harrison, Lennon, and Mark Bolan, and a rare first-pressing copy of the Beatles' White Album numbered multiple zeros 1. The auction raised over $9 million, and part of the proceeds went to the Lotus Foundation, a charity started by Starr and Bach. In 2016, Starr said he supported the United Kingdom leaving the European Union because he felt the EU wasn't making much progress. In 2017, he expressed eagerness for Brexit to happen, believing it's good for a country to have control. In October 2021, Starr's name came up in the Pandora Papers, which claimed he was involved in secret financial dealings along with politicians and celebrities, using tax havens to avoid paying taxes they owed. Starr doesn't eat meat, but he's allergic to garlic and onions, confirmed by Mary McCartney. He meditates every day, and his life's motto is peace and love. A life of honours and influence. Starr and the other Beatles were given a special title by the Queen in 1965. They got this title at Buckingham Palace on October 26th. Also, they were all in the running for a special movie award for their acting in A Hard Day's Night in 1964. Back in 1971, the Beatles got an award for Best Original Song Score for the music they made in the movie Let It Be. Also, there's a tiny planet called 4150 Starr, found in 1984 and named after Ringo Starr. He was also up for an award in 1989 for his acting in a kids' TV show called Shining Time Station. In 2015, after 27 years of being part of the Beatles when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Ringo Starr finally got his own spot for his solo career. The interesting thing is, while John Lennon, Paul McCartney and George Harrison were all inducted in the Performers category, Ringo got in under the Musical Excellence category. At the 50th Grammy Awards, Ringo Starr, along with George Martin and his son Giles, won the Best Compilation Soundtrack Award for Love. Then, on November 9, 2008, Ringo accepted a special Diamond Award for the Beatles at the 2008 World Music Awards in Monaco. On February 8, 2010, Ringo got a special honor, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's the 2,401st star, and you can find it at 7050 North Vine Street, right in front of the Capitol Records building. John Lennon, Paul McCartney and George Harrison also have stars there. In 2018, Ringo got a special title called Knight Bachelor for his contributions to music. He officially became a knight in a ceremony at Buckingham Palace on March 20, 2018, with Prince William doing the knighting. In 2022, Starr received an honorary Doctor of Music degree from the Berklee College of Music for his immeasurable impact on music, film and television, and popular culture. As we reflect on his remarkable legacy, we celebrate not only his musical genius, but also his unwavering spirit and timeless artistry, forever engraved in the fabric of our cultural heritage. Ringo Starr's life remains a symphony of creativity, love, and joy, leaving an indelible mark on the world stage. Thanks for watching. Check out another interesting video by clicking on the link appearing on your screen right now.